revealed. The heartwarming truth why medieval beer was more life-changing than water for 90. In the heart of a small rural town, a storm brewed within Jake. At 32, he stood behind the bar of his family's brew house, a place echoing with laughter and camaraderie. The heavy wooden beams, stained with years, wrapped around him like the arms of his grandfather, whose spirit thrived in every brew. Jake felt the stakes rising, the weight of expectations pressing down, choking him with the desperate need to provide for his ailing mother and spirited daughter. The brewery was more than a business. It was a lifeline, the soul of a community ready to drown in the tides of modernity. As the annual town festival approached, uncertainty gripped him. Profits waned, and aggressive competitors lurked, ready to swallow the family heritage like a wolf among sheep. He could almost hear them, the whispers of a buyout, the tantalizing promise of financial security at the cost of his family's craftsmanship. The thought clenched his stomach tight, each pulse echoing the emotional turmoil within him. That night, as he wiped the bar, a local veteran slid onto a stool beside him. Jake recognized him immediately, eyes weathered from service, hands trembling slightly. "Jake," he began, his voice hoarse, "I gotta tell you, your brews, they carried us through some dark times." He paused, glancing into the swirling depths of his glass. "When you poured that ale, it felt like home, like the warmth of family when everything else went cold." Jake's heart leaped. The memories surged back. Neighbors gathering, stories shared over laughter and clinking glasses. A community bound by the spirit of togetherness. Suddenly, he understood the brewery wasn't just somewhere to grab a drink. It was a refuge, a heartbeat for their tight-knit world. The warmth of his grandfather's ghost surged through him, urging him to fight. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With newfound resolve, Jake faced the town council, heart pounding like a drum in a marching band. He envisioned an annual event, community-driven, a celebration of their resilience and camaraderie. But as he unveiled his dreams, the tension hung in the room like thick fog. Skepticism etched on their faces, and fear of change seeped into their responses. Each word he fought to articulate echoed with urgency. Jake felt the air thicken around him, doubt creeping at the corners of every hopeful facade he'd built. Then, just as the flicker of hope began to catch fire, news rippled through the crowd. An unthinkable revelation threatening everything. Murmurs grew. Hearts sank. What could possibly stand against the swift tide of greed? The weight of the moment crashed down. Could love, tradition, and family withstand the storm swirling outside Jake's door? He stood on the brink of a choice, the legacy of his grandfather hanging in the balance, yearning for resolution. The question echoed in his mind, a thunderclap. Was he ready to risk everything for the community that had propped him up through thick and thin, or would he watch it slip away into the willing jaws of the modern world? Jake's heart raced as he absorbed the whispers spreading like wildfire through the hall. Something had changed in the air, heavy with apprehension and uncertainty. He glanced at the town council members, their expressions shifting from skepticism to concern. What could possibly threaten their tight-knit community? The door swung open, and in strode Lila, a local reporter known for her piercing insights and knack for uncovering hidden truths. She waved her hands to hush the crowd, her eyes bright with urgency. "Everyone listen up. The news just broke. One of the big breweries from the city is planning to move in and buy out local businesses, starting with us." A collective gasp filled the room, the kind that sends icy fingers running down your spine. Felt as if the walls were closing in on Jake. For years, his family had fought to keep their legacy alive, and now it seemed a corporation was ready to snuff out everything they had built. The murmurs turned to anger, fear festering in the air like a thick fog. "We can't let this happen," shouted Tom, a longtime bartender who had been with Jake's family since before Jake was born. If we roll over for them, it'll be like handing them our soul. The weight of his grandfather's spirit fueled Jake's fire. Exactly, he urged, his voice rising above the chaos. We built this place together. It's not just a business. It's our home. We can't let outsiders erase our history. We have to fight. But doubt gnawed at him. The corporate giants had money, resources, a marketing machine that could crush his family's legacy beneath its polished heel. What was an old brew house against the tide of sound bites and heavy advertising? Lila stepped forward, her expression intense. I'm willing to write up a piece on this. If we can rally the community, show them the impact of losing our local businesses, we might stand a chance. Jake interjected, eyes shining with hopeful determination. But we can't be just words on a page. We need action. Ideas began to take shape in the room, fueled by the collective energy of townsfolk who had gathered over years of good times and shared struggles. Let us have a festival, someone shouted. Let us showcase our craft. We'll invite everyone, bring in the food, music, activities. We'll prove this community means something. With every suggestion, Jake felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. They could remind their neighbors why the brew house mattered and why being local mattered even more. Let us celebrate us, Jake declared, and an electrifying cheer erupted from the crowd. Ideas collided, spirits soared, and for the first time in what felt like ages, they were united by a common goal. Yet, as excitement buzzed in the air, a shadow loomed. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the battle ahead would not be easy. What if the corporate giant retaliated? What if they couldn't gather enough support? Anxiety pricked at his insides like a thorn as the meeting concluded. Jake's heart thudded wildly. They had a plan, but would it be enough? The clock was ticking, and every day that passed meant dangerous uncertainty. He caught a glimpse of Lila sliding out the door, ready to make waves with her words. In that moment, he felt a surge of something raw within him. Would they rise to the occasion, become the champions of their own story, or would they crumble beneath the pressure? Jake took a deep breath, pushing all his doubts aside. He had to believe. He had to fight. But with the morning sun just rising on their efforts, a message pinged on his phone, shattering his newfound courage, a warning from an anonymous source advising him to back down, or face the wrath of the corporation. Jake's heart plummeted. What had he just stepped into? Would this be a fight worth the risk? Or would he be putting everything on the line only to lose it all? The echoes of doubt lingered in his mind as he prepared to confront the storm that was brewing, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much larger. Would they find a way through the darkness, or would they be swallowed whole? Jake stared at his phone, the message glaring back at him like a warning sign. His heart raced, and he felt the weight of the world pressing against his chest. Who had sent this? What did they know? It was a stark reminder that while their plans were full of hope, danger lurked just beneath the surface. He glanced around the now empty hall, echoes of laughter and heated discussions still hanging in the air. The enthusiasm of the earlier meeting felt like a distant memory. He tucked his phone back into his pocket, determination flooding his veins. He couldn't let fear take hold. He'd already lost too much to let this moment slip away. Jake stepped outside into the crisp morning air, the sunlight filtering through the trees that lined Main Street. For years, he had dreamed of this place, the brew house, standing proud and firm, a testament to his family's love, sweat, and sacrifice. He would be damned if he let an outsider come in and tear it down. His phone buzzed again, this time a text from Lila. We need to meet. I have contacts at the paper who might help spread the word. Let us discuss some angles. Relief washed over him. Lila was a fighter, her spirit a blazing torch that could guide them through the darkness. He quickly replied and agreed to meet her at the coffee shop in town. As he walked, he contemplated the vast sea of challenges ahead. What if they rallied folks only to find their efforts thwarted by a powerful corporation? What if the message he received was just the tip of the iceberg? Jake shook his head. He couldn't afford to dwell on what-ifs. By the time he reached the coffee shop, a buzz filled the air, a mix of laughter and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. He spotted Lila already seated by the window, her notepad open, scribbling furiously. She looked up as he approached, her eyes alight, radiating a fiery determination. "Jake, you won't believe what I found out," she said, her voice barely containing her excitement. "The corporation doesn't just want to buy out businesses. They're planning to raise the prices on everything. This isn't just about us. It affects the whole town." Jake's heart dropped again, but it was a different kind of sinking. This wasn't just about his family's brew house anymore. It was a strike against their entire way of life. "We have to get everyone on board," he said, his voice steadying. "This is bigger than I thought." "We will," Lila affirmed, her pen dancing across the pages. "But we need a solid story, a reason for them to care." In that moment, Jake realized they had the power of the community behind them, but they needed to shape that energy into something tangible. "What if we showcased the local breweries, artisans, and musicians? We tell their stories, how each spirit raised, each song sung, means something to all of us." Lila nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. If we can capture the heart of this town, show everyone what's at stake, it'll be harder for them to ignore us." With plans forming, hope seeped into the cracks of Jake's anxiety. But as they brainstormed, that warning text loomed in his mind, darkening their newfound light. He couldn't shake off the feeling that they were playing with fire. What would happen if the corporation retaliated? Would their celebration turn into a nightmare? As they wrapped up their strategy session, Lila's phone buzzed with breaking news. The city council was holding an emergency meeting to discuss the brewery's proposal. "We have to be there," she said, urgency coding every syllable. Jake's gut twisted again. They were close, but the threat was real. Would they find their voice in time? Would the community rise to the occasion before it was too late? As they dashed out the door, Jake couldn't help but wonder if standing tall would come at a heavy price. What awaited them at that emergency meeting, a flicker of hope or a bitter twist of fate? The uneasy tension clung to him as they hurried down the street, driven by a force greater than fear, an unyielding bond that could either save them or shatter everything. The city hall loomed before them, a stark contrast against the blue sky that seemed almost too cheerful for the gravity of their situation. As they entered, the atmosphere shifted. Concerned citizens filled the benches, whispers fluttering through the air like nervous butterflies. It felt as though the weight of their collective anxiety hung heavy, an invisible shroud wrapped around every hopeful heart. Jake found a spot toward the front, his eyes scanning the room for familiar faces. He spotted Mrs. Thompson, the elderly owner of the diner, her usual cheerful demeanor replaced by a tight-lipped frown. Next to her, Kyle from the hardware store looked anxious, shifting in his seat. Every face told a story of uncertainty, yet somewhere behind those shadows of doubt, Jake felt the flicker of a newfound resolve. They were in this together. "Remember," Lila whispered, her voice steady against the choppy waves of emotion swirling inside him. "This isn't just about the brewery. It's about the town." With a nod, Jake focused ahead as the mayor took to the podium, his expression serious. "We're here today to discuss the potential acquisition of several local businesses," the words flowed. But all Jake could hear was the beating of his heart. They were at a crossroads. This was the moment to fight or fade into the background. Lila leaned over. "We need to speak up, Jake." The mayor paused, eyes scanning the crowd. "If anyone has comments or concerns, please step forward." Adrenaline surged in Jake's veins. This was their chance. The air felt electric with possibility. He took a deep breath, and before he knew it, his legs were propelling him forward. Each step was a battle against the weight of fear that threatened to pull him back. He reached the front, the murmurs of the crowd fading into silence. With Lila's resolute gaze resting on him, he began. "I'm Jake Matthews, and I represent the Oak Brew House. We've been part of this community for generations." Pausing, he searched the room for support, locking eyes with Mrs. Thompson. "There's more at stake here than just a business. This brewery is a symbol of who we are. If we lose," Jake's voice cracked slightly, bringing him back to his personal pain, "we lose our history, our culture, and the spirit of togetherness that makes Oak Falls home." A soft murmur erupted from the crowd, kindling the flicker of hope into a flame. I know it's easy to think this only affects us. But look around the diner, the hardware store. These businesses keep families together, support local artists, and most importantly, foster community. The urgency in his voice rose. If this proposal goes through, prices will skyrocket. It's not just business. It's our way of life. At that moment, Lila joined him, stepping beside him as she reached for the microphone. Let us unite. We have stories to share and voices that matter. When we work together, we can fight against this threat. A pulse of energy surged through the room, faces brightening as people began murmuring in agreement. Hope clashed with fear, creating an intoxicating mixture of determination. It wasn't just their battle anymore. It was everyone. As a few more voices started to speak up, Jake felt renewed strength. But in the midst of the gathering momentum, that warning message echoed in his mind. Was it truly the whole town behind them, or were there hidden allies of the corporation lurking here, waiting to strike? Jake's heart raced again. He needed to find out what other secrets were concealed beneath the surface of their community. As the first chorus of a rallying cry filled the air, he realized they were just stepping onto the battlefield. Would their unified voice be enough to hold the line against encroaching darkness? Or would they be forced to confront unforeseen adversaries lurking in the shadows? This fight was just beginning. The buzz in the room intensified as more townsfolk stood, emboldened by Jake and Lila's call to action. Each voice added to a swelling tide of emotion, creating a mosaic of hopes and fears that painted the air electric with possibility. Jake felt the warmth of solidarity flow through him. It was like the glow of freshly brewed ale, rich and comforting. But something deeper tugged at him. Was this wave of strength just a veneer? His thoughts raced as he listened to Mrs. Thompson speak next. I've seen this town thrive and falter. We can't let corporate interests snuff out our community spirit. The crowd responded with cheers and applause, but Jake's heart skipped a beat. The more they cheered, the louder that gnawing doubt became. How could this room, vibrant with hope and unity, also harbor feelings of betrayal? Suddenly, a new voice cut through the fervor, sharp and cold. A tall figure rose at the back. It was Tim Morgan, the local banker, known for his pragmatic views and fierce loyalty to the establishment. But what happens when local businesses struggle to keep up? You're living in a dream if you think nostalgia will pay the bills. The brewery could be a lifeline for this town. Silence fell, and Jake felt the weight of those words settle like a heavy coat. He glanced back at Lila, who clenched her fists, her expression a mix of anger and fear. Was that what the townsfolk thought? That they were less a community and more a collection of sinking ships? Tim, that's not it at all, Jake said, his voice steady despite his rising anxiety. It's about more than profits. It's about identity. The brewery is a reflection of us, of everything we've built here together. If we let outsiders take it from us, what's left? The crowd murmured in agreement, and a palpable tension hung in the air. Jake felt as if they were standing on a precipice, peering into an abyss of chaos that could swallow them whole if they faltered. They needed to find a way to unite in the face of these frightening realities. Perhaps we could explore compromise, Tim suggested, his tone softer now, though still laced with skepticism. But it was too late. The adrenaline in the room was morphing into something almost primal, and the crowd wasn't ready to back down. Lila squeezed Jake's arm, her eyes aflame with determination. We cannot compromise our values. We don't want a lifeline that unravels our very foundation. As more voices chimed in, a strange euphoria enveloped Jake. They were wrestling for their very being as a town, and in that moment, it felt as if history itself was being written. The fire of his passion had ignited, and in that heat, he found clarity. The unyielding will to fight back burned bright. Yet, hidden behind that fervor, a haunting thought lingered. What if Tim represented more than just a dissenting opinion? What if his allies were waiting for an opportune moment to pull the rug from under their feet? As if sensing his turmoil, Lila leaned closer. Whatever happens, we stick together, right? He nodded, yet the same doubt gnawed at him. The crowd had reached a boiling point, cheers and murmurs crashing against the walls of the town hall. This was their moment. As the realization hit that they were fighting not only for their businesses but for their homes, Jake felt a rush of something deeper: fear, pride, hope. They were on the edge of dismantling the status quo, and with every moment, the stakes rose higher. This was their fight, their reckoning. But as the noisy debates raged on, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was still to come. Hidden within the shadows of this unified front, as the meeting stretched into heated discussions, the doors swung open to reveal a figure shrouded in mystery. The room fell silent as all heads turned, uncertainty now palpable. What revelation awaited them? Jake's heart thundered as he braced for the unknown. Whatever it was, it could change everything. The figure stepped forward, light filtering in from the hallway behind them, casting a long shadow across the floor. Jake squinted, trying to make out the newcomer. It was a woman, clad in a long, flowing coat that swayed gently with her every movement. Her silver hair framed a face marked by a mix of determination and wisdom. Familiar, yet different. She moved through the crowd like she owned the space, her presence commanding. "Miss Callahan," Lila murmured, recognition flashing in her eyes. The town historian, known for her stories of resilience and unity. "Good evening, everyone," Miss Callahan began, her voice cutting through the tension like a hot knife through butter. "I have seen many battles in this town, but not one as vital as the one brewing before us now." Jake could feel the energy shift. There was something about her that drew everyone's focus. "I have lived through decades of change here," she continued, her gaze sweeping across the room. "I remember the day when the old railroad was shut down, how it felt like the lifeblood of our town had been pulled out beneath us. But we survived. We found a way to adapt, to support each other. And it is that spirit we must harness today." The crowd appeared captivated. Miss Callahan had a way of storytelling that ignited nostalgia yet promised hope. Jake's heart raced as he listened, knowing that these words had the potential to lock them together in a unifying fight. "So, what do you want us to do?" he found himself asking, motivated by the fire she was rekindling in their hearts. "We have to hold tightly to our identity," she said, raising her voice just enough to drown out the rising murmurs. "We can't let ourselves be swayed by fear of change. Yes, we need to adapt, but not at the cost of losing who we are." "But what if we can't survive without the brewery?" someone shouted from the back. The doubt echoed through the room, momentarily undercutting Miss Callahan's stirring message. "We have a history of surviving against the odds," she countered fiercely. "This isn't just about beer. It's about our values, our relationships, our sense of belonging and home. Are we going to allow the lure of profit to overshadow that?" A low hum of agreement rippled through the audience. Lila exchanged glances with Jake, her eyes flickering with determination. Jake could feel the tide turning, but doubt still tugged at him. Could it really be that simple? As Miss Callahan continued, recounting tales of struggle, resilience, and community triumphs, something began to shift inside him. Her words were like an anchor, grounding him against the waves of uncertainty crashing all around. "If we stand together, from the old to the young, we have the power to dictate our path. We control the narrative, not the corporations." The applause was thunderous, mobbed by enthusiasm as the townsfolk rallied around her message. It rang through the hall like a tune that reverberated in their souls. Jake felt a sense of belonging with each clap. They were one, united against a common foe: soulless corporate interests. But just when it felt inescapable, the door swung open once more, revealing yet another figure. A man, tall and imposing, whispered as he entered, causing the crowd to hush again. "Where's the truth in this nostalgic dream?" he barked, his voice cutting through the buzz with the sharpness of a blade. Jake's stomach tightened. The real confrontation was right before them. What did this man want, and was Tim Morgan somehow linked to him? The very air thickened with tension, coaxing Jake into a choice he didn't think he'd have to make. "Nothing in life comes without its struggles," Miss Callahan whispered, catching his eye, as though she could read his inner turmoil. "But this town, Jake, it has the strength to push back if you're willing to fight for it." As the dichotomy of their values clashed within the room, shadows loomed larger and tensions rose higher. What was about to unfold could shake the very foundation of everything they worked for. Would they unite against this new entrance? Or would doubt and division fracture their newly forged bond? Jake's heart raced. The stakes were daunting, and the outcome uncertain. It was now or never. The man stood at the threshold as if he had walked straight out of the shadows. His presence swallowed the energy Miss Callahan had just ignited, commanding attention through sheer force. Jake shot a glance at Lila, who looked visibly uneasy, her brows knitted together. He wished he could read her thoughts, seeking reassurance in her steadfastness. "I'm surprised to see you here," Miss Callahan said, steady but unmistakably wary. "This isn't your usual arena, Mr. Ferris. Why should I keep quiet?" he retorted, an unapologetic grin creeping up his face. "The people of this town need to hear the truth, not just your beloved stories of resilience." "Truth?" Someone from the audience called out, their voice shaky, laced with apprehension. "What truth could you possibly bring that we haven't already lived?" "Simple," Ferris shot back, pointing a finger toward the crowd, as if he bore witness to a worldwide secret. "You cling to these romanticized visions of what this town used to be, desperate to preserve something that no longer exists. Change is coming. The brewery is sinking fast, and nostalgia won't save it." The anxiety in the air thickened, almost palpable, as murmurs spread across the room. Jake's insides twisted. Was Ferris right? The more he thought about it, the more uncertainty crept in. Was it simply illusion and willpower that held the town together? "Mr. Ferris," Miss Callahan began, her voice unyielding, "sometimes it isn't about what we have but how we stand together. This town is woven from shared experiences, stories, and battles fought." "Yeah? Well, I'm not here for a history lesson. I'm here to show you reality, to help you face what's next." He shot back, eyes glinting with determination, presenting himself as some twisted savior. "What's the point of reliving history if it's only leading us down a path to oblivion?" Suddenly, a strong voice from the back interrupted. "What's the point in tearing apart what we built? We need each other more than ever." It was an older gentleman, his weathered face set in stone, gripping the arm of his younger companion. The crowd pointedly drew back as tension snaked through the room. Everyone was involving themselves in the debate now, shifting uneasily on their feet. Each section divided, weighed down by doubts or emboldened by renewed hope as Ferris stepped further into the room. A shadow crossed Jake's mind. Could anyone truly be trusted? The answers were as blurry as they had ever been. He could feel Lila's hand reach for his, her touch steadying him in the whirlwind uncertainty. "Listen, while you all grapple with your fantasies, cities around us are thriving. Communities are evolving," Ferris pressed, cunningly warm yet cold. "Adapt or die, that's the real truth." Jake couldn't keep quiet, a surge of strength bubbling up inside him. "And what do you propose we do? Sell our souls to save a business?" He couldn't hold back. "You want us to change everything that defines us? This is our home." The crowd roared in response, but he could still sense the fissures. Some in the room looked torn, perhaps even tempted by Ferris's undercurrent of reason. In that moment, Jake realized the battle wasn't just against Ferris but against the creeping fear and doubt that lurked within them all. As the atmosphere simmered, Miss Callahan stepped closer to Jake, her voice low. "We have to remind them of their strength. They need to feel it, not just hear it." Her words struck him, drawing him deeper into the fray of emotions swirling around him. Jake took a deep breath, eyes scanning the assembly, determining what course they might embark on. It was then that a flash of inspiration hit him. "Let us show them," he started, needing to find the right words. "Let's remind everyone why this town matters, and how much we can succeed when we stand united." As the crowd responded, alive with excitement, Jake felt an electricity shift in the room. But in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the worry over whether his voice was strong enough to drown out Ferris's manipulative rhetoric. Callahan placed her hand on his arm, urging him forward. "You're on the right path, Jake. But remember, Some truths are crafted, not just unearthed, as the tension built toward the climax of their confrontation. Jake's resolve hung in the balance. Could their bond withstand the coming storm? Or would the fierce opposition from Ferris tear apart everything they had worked for? The moment of truth was fast approaching, and in his heart, Jake knew the stakes were higher than ever before. Would the town embrace hope, or succumb to fear? "There's something special about this place," Jake said, raising his voice above the growing tumult. He felt the warmth of Ms. Callahan's hand on his arm, an anchor amidst the chaos. Not just in its past, but the love we've built in every moment we've shared. Memories of laughter, of struggle, of times that defined who we are. The crowd quieted slightly, leaning in to listen, their faces a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Jake could see Lila standing with unwavering support, her eyes bright with hope. It gave him courage to continue. "Look around," he urged, gesturing to the familiar faces. "We didn't just build a brewery. We built a community. We didn't pour our hearts into just beer. We poured our dreams into this town, into each other." A ripple of acknowledgement swept through those gathered. Heads nodded, and he saw some of the older folks exchanging glances, memories sparking in their expressions. A gentle hum of agreement began to rise. Yet Ferris remained unyielding. "What does it matter if you remember? This town is crumbling. You're all living in a fantasy that won't feed your families. You need to face reality." Jake stepped forward, feeling the heat of a fire light within him. "Reality? Or is it really fear you want us to face?" He thrust an arm toward Ferris, challenging him with his gaze. "Fear of losing what you never truly understood. It's not about fear. It's about survival." Ferris shot back, his voice laced with tension. "You want to fantasize about the good old days, but the new world is coming, whether you like it or not." Undeterred, Jake pressed on. "Survival doesn't just mean changing for the sake of change. We can evolve, yes, but in a way that honors our roots. We can build something new without sacrificing what we cherish." The crowd was visibly torn. Whispers flashed through, some still lost in Ferris's allure of a brighter future. Others finding solace in Jake's plea. He took a breath, centering himself. He knew this was about more than himself and Ferris. It was about every person in this room, each with their own stake in the battle for their town's soul. A familiar voice piped up from the side. "Jake's right. We've weathered storms before, haven't we? We've come together in tough times." It was Mrs. Johnson, the local baker, her cheeks flushed with passion. "We don't need to abandon our past to move forward. We can create something that honors the old while embracing the new." Encouraged by her words, Jake felt his own resolve harden. Exactly. What if we combined the best of both worlds? Imagine a place that celebrates our history, a brew restaurant. Locals hosting events, sharing stories, and keeping our traditions alive, all while adapting to what's next. "Let us make our brewery a beacon of hope." The sounds of murmurs began to pick up, excitement weaving through the audience like a thread. Jake's heart raced as he witnessed the spark of possibility reignite in their eyes. Ferris's calm demeanor cracked, and for a moment, vulnerability flashed across his facade. He realized that he was losing ground, and the grip on the crowd was slipping. But Jake remained focused. "Together we can do this. We have creativity, tenacity, we have community. Are we really going to let fear control us? Or are we going to rise as one?" The atmosphere crackled with energy as Jake stepped back from the precipice of uncertainty, hoping against hope that they could seize their shared vision. As laughter began to bubble up and voices joined him in solidarity, he felt the tide turning, pushing against the fate Ferris had laid out with such confidence. In that moment, Lila squeezed Jake's hand, her warmth a grounding force amidst the uncertainties. "You're doing it," she whispered, a shared spark igniting between them. But could this momentum be enough to withstand Ferris's hollow promises of progress? With every heart stirred, Jake understood the danger they faced. Was the town truly ready to rise together? Or would relentless doubt shatter their new dreams before they could soar? As the crowd leaned in closer, anticipation forged in their hopeful glances. One question loomed large. Would they choose the light of collaboration, or be consumed by the shadows of fear? The murmurs grew louder, a blend of excitement and trepidation rippling through the crowd. Jake could feel the weight of their hopes and fears as they hung in the air, ready to tip in either direction. He looked to Lila, her eyes wide, and saw a reflection of his own determination. This was it. They were standing on the brink of something monumental. "Remember why we fell in love with this place?" Jake called, raising his voice above the rising tide of emotions. "It wasn't just about the beer, and trust me, it's good beer. It's about family, friends, and gathering here, in this very spot, to support one another. We lifted each other up through heartache and celebrations alike." Mrs. Johnson chimed in again. "When we lost the town center, we all grieved together. That's what made us stronger. We fought back, came together to rebuild. This is no different." Her words ignited a spark in the crowd. Jake could see inspiration take root as smiles spread and nods of agreement drifted through the sea of familiar faces. Old Mr. Callahan stood up, his cane trembling slightly. "I remember the nights I spent in this very brewery, sharing stories with my father. We used to say our beer was brewed with love. If we let go of that, we lose a piece of ourselves." "You're right," someone shouted from the sidelines. "This town isn't just bricks and mortar. It's our stories." Encouragement echoed back and forth like a passing breeze, feeding off each revelation, gathering momentum for Jake's cause. As the crowd began chanting, "Together," their voices intertwined, creating a tapestry of strength and hope. Jake felt the surge of adrenaline, a thrilling rush coursing through him. But as the atmosphere lifted, Jake noticed Ferris moving through the crowd. He was whispering to people, planting seeds of doubt in the minds of those questioning. Jake's heart plunged. The tension was palpable. "Don't listen to him," he shouted, tilting his head defiantly in Ferris's direction. "He's feeding off your uncertainty. Together we can create an unbreakable bond. We can make this brewery not just another business, but a cornerstone for the future." Lila squeezed Jake's hand tighter, her expression a mix of anxiety and fierce encouragement. "Jake, they need to see this vision. Show them." Taking a deep breath, Jake summoned the history of their community, filling his heart with the stories that had built the bonds around them. "Every beer has a story," he exclaimed, gesturing to the brewery's wooden barrels that held so much more than just ale. "Each brew holds laughter and tears, friendships forged and battles won. Imagine if we turned this place into a vibrant hub. A place where our past meets a vibrant new future. A community brew house filled with warmth, laughter, and most importantly, love." The crowd erupted in supportive cheers, voices blending into an exhilarating swell of anticipation. Faces transformed, the warmth of hope replacing doubt. Jake's heart soared, but he remained aware that the path ahead was fraught with challenges. Ferris's words were like shadows, hovering at the edges, waiting for a moment of doubt to creep in. Just then, as if on cue, a loud crash rang out from the direction of Ferris. Jake turned to see a group of people gathered around a broken table. The shatter of which silenced the crowd momentarily, but it was Lila's sudden gasp that drew his attention back. "Jake, look," she pointed. Ferris had stepped back, his expression twisted with fury, his calculated facade cracking under the pressure. What if, Jake thought, that mess was an opportunity? Hope shattered deeply entrenched fears. Would they still hold onto that explosive momentum? Or could one erratic moment entangle them back into doubt? As the crowd began to murmur again, Jake felt a surge of determination pushing him forward. There was no turning back now. The energy in the room surged like the rising tide, the echoes of hope mixing with the sounds of uncertainty. Jake took a deep breath, letting the atmosphere fill him up until he felt ready to overflow. He stepped forward again, determination etched on his face. "This is what it's all about. We're here, together, not just for our businesses but for the heart of Oak Falls. We can't let fear shatter our dreams and traditions." His voice pierced through the lingering doubt, igniting a fire within the townsfolk. People stood, shoulders squared and faces brightening with a renewed sense of purpose. A chorus of yes, and let us do this, rippled through like a gust of wind, sweeping Ferris's shadows aside, if only for a moment. Together, we'll create an event like no other. A festival showcasing all that we are: our stories, our crafts, our flavors. Jake continued, his voice solidifying with conviction. Let us unite our talents. The brewers, the bakers, the artists. Let us show everyone that we're more than just businesses. We're a family, and we're ready to shine. Lila joined him at the front, her spirited presence charging the atmosphere. We'll invite everyone. Make it a celebration of Oak Falls. Together, we can remind the surrounding communities why they need us. This isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving. As cheers erupted, people began filing out of the hall, their faces fueled with excitement. But Jake couldn't shake the sense of urgency. With Ferris's creeping influence lurking just behind them, the battle was far from over. Could they harness this momentum? While the crowd buzzed about their various roles and contributions, Jake found himself beside Miss Callahan, who wore a look of pride mingled with concern. You did well, she said, her voice full of wonder. But remember, persistence is key. Ferris won't take defeat lightly. I know, Jake replied, his brow furrowed. But we're ready. I can feel it. This community is ready to fight back. His heart swelled at the thought. They had come together so quickly, hearts aligned. He believed they could make it work, and he wasn't ready to let fear rob them of that fight. The next few weeks sped by in a blur of preparations. The townsfolk poured their heart and soul into creating a festival that mirrored their spirit, each detail adding another layer of love to the event. Like the perfect brew. With laughter ringing through the brew house, families, friends, and neighbors bonded over their shared vision. Then came the day of the festival, a brilliant cascade of colors and sounds. The smell of freshly baked goods wafted through the air, while local musicians filled the atmosphere with joyous melodies. Jake watched as people mingled, laughter trickling from one group to another. For a moment, it felt like a dream, the community alive and vibrant as if everyone was a piece of a larger puzzle coming together. But as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the grounds, a dark cloud loomed in their midst. A group of corporate representatives, led by Ferris, strode onto the scene. Jake's stomach dropped, anxiety knotting tighter in his chest. The festival buzz dimmed momentarily, eyes darting nervously toward the intruders. It's time to talk, Ferris called over the crowd, his tone cool and confident. All eyes turned to him, waiting for the storm to break. About what? Jake stepped forward, trembling but resolute. Are you here to spoil our celebration? Your tactics won't intimidate us. In fact, Ferris smirked, you're making this too easy. A few local cheers won't stop the inevitable. I think we can come to an agreement. Why not let this be the last festival? Embrace the change. You'll find a better income. Jake felt the energy plunge, fear wrapping around him like a snake. The festival had worked so hard to show that life was more than profit, and Ferris's words struck like a match in dry tinder. No, Jake shouted, voice cutting through the murmurs. This isn't just about dollars and cents. This is our home, our history. Then something remarkable happened. One by one, voices from the crowd joined him. Our home, they shouted, hands raised and spirits lifted. We want to stand with our community. Look at what we've created. Lila added, eyes ablaze with courage. We are not backing down. We built this spirit, this life together. You are merely passing through. Their voices melded into a unified chant, drowning out the corporate overtures with passion and resolve. The excitement built, raw and inevitable, as if their very connection surged like electricity through a fraying wire, sparking with energy. Ferris's expression shifted, the confidence bleeding from his features. This is unbelievable, he muttered, trying to regain control. But it was too late. Their voices rose, intertwining like threads of a historic tapestry. Jake locked eyes with Lila, seeing the reflection of their hard work and unity glimmering like a beacon in the dark. This was it. This was the moment he had fought for. As laughter and cheer filled the air again. The townsfolk transformed fear into strength. They were here to stay, to celebrate their community and defend what mattered most. In that instant, something shifted in Jake. He felt a sense of belonging so profound it washed over him like a wave. They were family bound not by blood, but by heart. And as they basked in the warmth of that unity, Jake turned back to Ferris, ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. "Your threats don't scare us," he said at last, voice steady. "We are not a business to be bought or sold. We are Oak Falls, and we won't let you drown our spirit." Cheers erupted again, each voice echoing affirmation throughout the space. Together, they stood the ground against uncertainty, a newfound assurance radiating from their hearts. And with that, Jake knew they were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for a resurrection of their spirits, a triumph over doubt that had long threatened to eclipse their joy. As the festival pulsed with life around them, he felt the truth settling in. Love, community, and history could not be so easily swept away. Their tales would endure, alive and blooming, just like the brewery holding their stories. With one final glance at Lila, Jake grinned, his heart alive with possibility. The storm had passed. This was only just the beginning. Together, they would shape a new future as solid as the old roots that nourished them. This fight for Oak Falls now more than ever was worth every single heartbeat. And just like that, a new chapter unfurled, not only for his family but for the loving tapestry of community surrounding him. It would require strength, passion, and unwavering spirit. But with each moment, they would keep shaping their destiny, lifting one another and building a legacy that would live on for generations to come. Thank you for being part of this journey with Jake and his community. If you've enjoyed their story, you need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive tales. Leave a like right now to help us feed the algorithm. Every thumbs up counts. Comment below with your feelings about this inspiring ending. Your thoughts matter. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of being here, together.